ABP Live. I have with me today Mr. Amitabh Kant. He is the G20 Sherpa of India and he has been the former CEO of NITI Aayog. Welcome to ABP Live, sir, and thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. So let me first ask, the generic question that people are asking that yes, it's a great thing that India is now finally having the G20 presidency and a lot rests on our shoulders. But to say that we will be the voice of Global South, what exactly does that mean from your perspective? Because when we talk about Global South, this is, the agenda is huge. How do you think that we will be addressing all of them?
So, important thing to understand is that G20 is a grouping of both developed and developing world. It's unlike United Nations, which has very large diffuse membership of 186 countries. It's very different from G7, which is just the 7 countries of the world. G20 is important because it comprises about 85% of the global GDP. It comprises about 78% of the global trade.
Right.
And therefore, when G20 meets, they represent the voice of about 85% of the global production, almost 80% of the global trade, 90% of the patents, 2/3 of the humanity. And therefore, when whatever they do has an implication for everyone in the world. And therefore, when G20 presidency falls on India, India should not speak the voice of only few countries, but should speak the voice of the entire world and speak the voice of those who are unheard of and who are suffering in silence and who may not be represented in G20, but are facing a huge crisis of economic growth, of SDGs, of climate action, because the world is in the midst of several crises right now. And therefore, India should speak on the voice of not merely the G20, but also the voice of the developing South.
So interesting. So now I recently read, you've written somewhere that in its G20 presidency, India will call for modernization of data systems and advanced principles of transparency to better use of data for development. What do you exactly mean by that? Because now we can see cyber security, cyber warfare is something getting priority now, something that India or probably Indians never really understood the importance, but now data is everything. As they say, data is the new oil. So what are your thoughts on that and what exactly you meant by it?
No, it's very critical because our own experience of India today reveals that, like we did the aspirational district program, it was just data analysis, making states compete on the basis of data, making districts work with each other on data, put out their ranking in place. It was not possible 5 years before this because data was not available on a real-time basis. Today, data is available on a real-time basis if you have good governance. You are able to get data, put it together, put it on public domain so you can transform nutrition, you can transform health, you can transform education. A lot you can do through the use of data. Data is a very powerful tool for governance, but you should be able to analyze data, put it in public domain. You should be able to create a sense of competition and bring in the principles of good governance and do a good data analytics. And therefore, our belief is that SDGs, for instance, can be transformational. Like we've used digital public infrastructure in India to do a huge amount of transformational work. We've created digital identity, we've created digital bank accounts, we've linked them up, we've been able to do fast payments, which is about 11x of what USA, China, Europe all do together. We do more than what 3x or more of what China does. So all this has been possible because of data, because of the use of technology, because of our ability to leapfrog. We could provide money straight into the bank accounts of beneficiaries because we had this ability to link bank accounts and identity together.
So what more can we do?
So you can do a huge lot in the field of education, in the field of health, in the field of nutrition, in the field of agriculture. All this is data driven. Put out that data for better governance. Use that data to create competition, use that data to tell people that you're lagging behind, and this is the reason why others are progressing. And therefore, data will really be the key to the future of growth, and data will really be the key to transforming the world. And that's why the principles of data will be very important.
So now coming to manufacturing and growth, which are interlinked. Now we see that first it is because of the pandemic, and then the Russia-Ukraine war. Supply chain disruptions has become a common norm. But then that is also given India an opportunity, so to say, as far as the plus one strategy is concerned, right? A lot many companies, especially American companies, are talking about China Plus, where India really comes prominently out. How do you think under G20's presidency we can leverage that?
No, it's very important because global supply chains are disrupted. It's not an issue of decoupling, but there's a huge monopoly which has been built up, and several countries and several companies have more than 95% of the production in one country. Now, we've seen during the COVID period, we've also seen in the chips, huge amount of disruption in the global supply chain. And therefore, our view is strongly that there needs to be a demonopolization more than anything else. Alternative nations have to be thought of for manufacturing. And I think this will happen in due course. The challenge is about making India itself very efficient, very competitive, very business friendly, and a lot will depend on the states and their ability to be highly competitive and efficient, to be able to attract global value chains into India for manufacturing purposes. We've seen a lot of this happening because of PLI. We've seen Apple phones, we've seen Samsung, we've seen many other big companies doing manufacturing here. But in the long run, it's your competitive efficiency, your ability to be the least cost producer in the world, which will be critical. And India has a huge possibility and potential to do that.
But what are the main challenges, while you address this?
Main challenge is to make yourself very efficient. Your turnaround time at the airport has to be the best. Your labor costs has to be very, very competitive. Your laws are very outdated and outmoded. You will have to do a lot of decriminalization. You will have to become the best producer in the world. And that is for India and Indian states. A lot of ease of doing business has been driven by the government of India, but I think that momentum has to be now carried forward by the states. You need about 15 states of India to become the best producers in the world.
Now, sir, since we are doing this interaction at this point of a time where we are seeing, unfortunately, millions of COVID cases are coming up in China, and we still don't know what the data there looks like. They're not really coming clear, giving the data to WHO. But from India's perspective, do you see that emerging as a challenge as far as our G20 presidency is concerned?
No, a COVID anywhere is a challenge for any other place in the world, and therefore we need to ensure that COVID ends everywhere in the world. It's not merely China, everywhere in the world. But our view is that we've been able to do COVID vaccination to every single citizen of India. We've been able to provide booster shots to vast segments of our population. We've used COVID very effectively. We've emerged as the pharmacy of the world, as the vaccine capital of the world. And we wish China all the very best in their attempts in this policy. Policy measures being taken by them now to open up, to vaccinate, to ensure that every citizen has vaccination is very, very critical. And any threat from there is a threat to anywhere else in the world. And therefore, we'll have to be very, very careful so that our presidency in any way does not get impacted, but we'll work in partnership with every country in the world. We believe in partnership, we believe in vaccine maitri, we believe in a close collaboration and partnership with every country in the world.
So I'll now shift your focus to the geopolitical developments. Right now, from India's perspective, we have a standoff going on at the LSC with China for the past 2 years. More than that, we've had the Galwan clash and now the Taiwan clash. That becomes a little difficult for us. Also, there is a Russia-Ukraine war going on that can probably go until February. If that happens, then it will be almost a year. In that perspective, how much more challenging you think it has become for India? I would not say to play the role of a mediator, but to at least see that these things are also discussed and also sort of finds a resolution while we sit on that chair.
So, one important thing to understand is that G20 is not a bilateral forum, it's a multilateral forum. It's also an economic forum. It's not a forum to discuss security issues. It's not a forum to discuss war issues. Those issues are discussed in the UN Security Council. And therefore, the focus should be largely on economic issues. Now, the geopolitics has an implication on food, fertilizer,
Exactly. On growth.
on growth, and therefore some of these issues spill over. But like in Bali, we found a solution to that, falling back on the UN Security Council resolution. India played a very key and critical role in that. India worked in partnership with other developing countries to draft it out and put forth the framework which was accepted by everybody else, which basically fell back on the UN Security Council resolution. So my view is that these are issues to be discussed with other countries by the Ministry of External Affairs. This is not strictly a domain of G20. G20 should focus on the economic content, growth, progress, SDG, digital transformation, women-led development, transformation of multilateral institutions, which are India's core priorities.
That's very key point what you said, sir. But do you think the G20 member countries will agree to that? Because we saw what happened in Bali, where certain Western countries were saying that we will not attend if President Putin comes in there, and we saw President Putin for certain reasons he did not attend it. No, now do you think India will also face those challenges where
No,
it needs
there
to
are
do that?
several challenges. There is a challenge of climate action. There's a challenge of poverty. 200 million people have gone below poverty line. 100 million people have lost their jobs. There's a challenge of geopolitics. There's a challenge of global debt. They're huge challenges. India will face all these challenges as we go along. Every challenge is a massive opportunity, huge opportunity for India to find. That's what leadership is all about. So we'll look for challenges, solutions to the challenges.
Right. So now coming to where all the meetings will take place. That's something everybody is discussing. Not just the focus will be in the capital city, but it will be also on the cities, various cities across the country. And I know Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that this is an opportunity to show the G20 members what really diversity is as far as India is concerned. What do you have to say to that?
So first is the broad theme of India, that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and one earth, one family, one future. That there is unity in diversity. We all come from the same cosmos, and the unity in diversity. There's nothing better than India to show. So this is an opportunity to transform every city. 200 events, 56 cities of India, throughout every state of India, every union territory of India. It's an opportunity to transform these cities. It's also an opportunity to show the huge wealth of culture that we have in every state and every city of India. It's an opportunity to show the unique one district, one product of India by bringing all the crafts of India together. It's also an opportunity to demonstrate the millets of India. And of course, this is a massive opportunity to showcase the meetings, incentives, convention market of India. So these are all billion-dollar opportunities. The travel tourism market is 540 billion. The handicraft market is about 100 billion. The culture market is about 300 billion. So this is an opportunity for every state to build its own brand, which can go into the international
So
market.
it will be north, south, east, west.
It'll be every state, every union territory, every single state and every union territory of India. So it's a massive opportunity for everyone.
So my final question to you is, now that we are all geared up for the G20 summit to come in, but summit is like the final outcome, but before that we have so many meetings happening. The question also is that what would be the ultimate outcome product, so to say. It's not that as if in 1 year we're the president and next year we forget whatever was discussed. So in terms of the outcome, what do you from your perspective, what you foresee?
So the Prime Minister has said that our presidency will be very decisive, it will be action oriented, and we will be very, very reform minded, and we will take the G20 forward. The challenge for us are many, but we will work towards a very, very progressive and forward looking approach.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving us that update. That was Mr. Amitabh Kant. He is the G20 Sherpa of India and also the former CEO of NITI Aayog. You were watching ABP Live. For ABP Live, this is Nayanima Basu.